Ming Wuji suddenly grabbed Yun Weishan by the throat. Her moves were the same as Han Yasi's. Yun Weishan instinctively concluded she was nameless. Ming Wuji didn't catch Yun Weishan's muttered words but calmed herself and said she saw Gong Yuanjing and Jin Fan fighting inside and outside her room, clearly over something important. Ming Wuji admitted she had indeed lost something. Gong Yuanjing had taken Lady Lan's medical record from when she was pregnant with Gong Ziyu. Half of the record was seized by Jin Fan. Gong Zishan planned to hide the medical record with herself. Jin Fan worried it would put her in danger, but Gong Zishan cared less about danger and more about Jin Fan's concern. Meanwhile, Gong Ziyu struggled mentally in the Snow Palace. On one hand, he was naturally afraid of the cold and reluctant to enter the water. On the other, he felt a strong sense of responsibility, especially remembering the tragic deaths of his father and brother and the constant pressure from Gong Shanjue. In the end, he gritted his teeth and jumped into the freezing cold pool. Gong Ziyu tried hard to dive deeper, silently running the melting snow mine technique taught by his father. The cold gradually dissipated. As he passed through the ice layer, he found the water at the bottom getting warmer, but his internal energy was being rapidly depleted. He hesitated again. If he continued downward to retrieve the box, he risked exhausting his inner power and dying. The only way to survive was to turn back, but he decided to gamble and dove to the bottom to grab the box. On the way back, he fainted due to inner power depletion. At that moment, Yun Weishan suddenly appeared, transferring her breath and inner energy to Gong Ziyu mouth to mouth. Gong Ziyu regained consciousness. Yun Weishan gestured, showing a rope tied around her waist. Gong Ziyu understood and quickly surfaced with the box and the rope, then pulled Yun Weishan out. Yun Weishan woke up lying in bed. She recalled how Gong Ziyu had pulled her up and saved her, feeling a bit shy. Gong Ziyu opened the box only to find it empty, leaving him confused. The Shui boy explained that obtaining the box itself meant he had passed the trial. This stage tested the resolve of the participant. If his mind wavered, he would turn back halfway. Only unwavering determination could bring him to the bottom. The Shui boy then returned the green jade attendant token to Yun Weishan and said she could go back the next day. He still had a few things to discuss privately with Gong Ziyu. The next day, Yun Weishan returned to her quarters and found Shang Wanqian waiting for her. Shang Wanqian directly stated she wanted Yun Weishan's help retrieving what Jin Fan had taken. Yun Weishan refused, saying Jin Fan wasn't as simple as he appeared. Though she had bested him once, he hadn't even used 30% of his strength. Moreover, he had taken half of Lady Lan's medical record from Gong Yuanjing. Shang Wanqian then realized how difficult her task from Gong Shanjue truly was. But the more difficult it was, the more determined she became. If she succeeded, she could get closer to Gong Shanjue. Yun Weishan refused to cooperate, knowing that the outcome could affect Gong Ziyu's position as sword wielder. If Shang Wanqian succeeded, Yun Weishan's mission would be voided. Shang Wanqian insisted, using her status as a charm-ranked assassin to pressure Yun Weishan, and physically subdued her, forcing Yun Weishan to agree. Yun Weishan specially made traditional pastries from her hometown in the kitchen and had a guard deliver them to Jin Fan. After eating them, Jin Fan felt unwell. Yun Weishan immediately informed Gong Zishang, who rushed over to check on him. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Yun Weishan stole the half-medical record and hid it in a secret spot marked with stones. Shang Wanqian saw the mark, took the record, and gave it to Gong Shanjue. Gong Shanjue was surprised she actually succeeded and curious how she managed something even he couldn't do. Shang Wanqian lied, saying she had leverage over Yun Weishan and used it to force her to steal the record. Gong Shanjue invited her to sit and play chess. Though his words were full of warning, it was clear their relationship had grown closer. Jin Fan realized the medical record was missing and suspected Yun Weishan. He and Gong Zishang confronted Yun Weishan, who played dumb. Jin Fan decided to let Gong Ziyu decide upon his return. Until then, Yun Weishan was not to leave her room. Meanwhile, Gong Ziyu looked at the snowy scenery outside and recalled how his mother had once been gloomy. He lamented that he had spent his entire life in the Gong residence, watching the women yearn for the outside world but unable to change their fates. Though the men had the power to resist woofing, they chose to hide and preserve themselves. He admitted that he had little emotional attachment to the Gong family. The Shui boy, however, offered a different view, that by guarding this pure sky alone, the Gong family gave people in the martial world something to yearn for. This was the Gong family's purpose. He also told Gong Ziyu that Gong Hongyu had valued him deeply. Jin Fan was the only Red Jade attendant, but Gong Hongyu assigned him to protect and accompany Gong Ziyu, even switching his Red Jade token for the lowest ranked Green Jade token. Shui Zhongzi taught the 3 snow sweeping techniques to Gong Ziyu, but the time was too short for Gong Ziyu to fully grasp them. He planned to return to the Gong residence, and before leaving, he told Shui Zhongzi that he would keep his promise to take them both out for a walk someday. He left the pastries Yun Weishan had made for young Master Shui. In return, Shui Zhongzi gave him a personally written note detailing the flaws in the Shui family sword techniques. Gong Ziyu left with deep gratitude, feeling the trip had been worthwhile. Gong Ziyu returned to the Gong residence full of joy, but only Jin Fan and Gong Zishang came out to greet him. The one he missed most, Yun Weishan, was not there. He asked them about her situation, and Jin Fan briefly explained and told him to decide for himself. Gong Ziyu immediately went to Ming Wuji's room, but the servant at the door said she didn't want to see anyone, so he had no choice but to leave after sending his regards through the door. Then, he went to see Yun Weishan. He hesitated outside her room for a long time, but didn't open the door. Yun Weishan, sensing he had inner turmoil, didn't force the issue, and they began to talk through the door. Gong Ziyu said the first person he wanted to see upon his return was Yun Weishan. He wanted to tell her everything he had seen and heard at the Shui residence, but her actions made it difficult for him. He could understand if Ming Wuji and Gong Shangjue had made a deal in pursuit of freedom, but he didn't know what Yun Weishan wanted. If it was truly freedom, he would let her go. Yun Weishan, having promised Ming Wuji, couldn't explain to Gong Ziyu at the moment and only hoped he would trust her. Gong Ziyu silently placed the gift he had prepared on the ground and left. After Yun Weishan opened the door, she found the gift, a piece of cloud carved from thousand-year-old ice. She could feel Gong Ziyu's affection, but was also reminded of her identity. If she allowed herself to feel for Gong Ziyu, it would only lead to a tragic, inescapable ending. Elsewhere, Gong Ziyu recalled what Shui Zhongzi had told him and developed a different feeling toward Jin Fan. He asked Jin Fan whether all his sacrifices were worth it. Jin Fan, initially puzzled when the old sword wielder exchanged his red jade attendant token for a green jade attendant one, had gradually come to understand his responsibilities, and his doubts had disappeared. Ming Wuji went to Madame Lan's room, where the orchids and the portrait of Madame Lan brought back memories and sorrow. She remembered the past with Madame Lan, who was always melancholic and had once scolded her for staying, saying that once someone entered the Gong residence, it was nearly impossible to leave. At that moment, someone summoned Ming Wuji to the council hall. She knew what was coming and had likely been waiting for it. Gong Shangjue confidently asked the three elders to verify Gong Ziyu's identity, believing that with medical evidence and Ming Wuji's testimony, victory was his. To Gong Shangjue's astonishment, Ming Wuji swore publicly that Gong Ziyu was indeed Madame Lan's child, a premature baby, and exposed Gong Shangjue's attempt to recruit her. Gong Shangjue feigned composure and presented the medical record to the elders, trying to turn the situation in his favor. Elder Hua confirmed it was written by a doctor from that time, and stated that Gong Ziyu was not premature but born full term, proving Madame Lan was already pregnant before arriving at the Gong residence, thereby establishing that Gong Ziyu was not the son of the old sword wielder. Ming Wuji stepped forward, examined the record, and declared it a forgery with malicious intent. She knelt and begged the elders to investigate and clear Gong Ziyu's name. The elders immediately sent people to the medical bureau, and soon the guards reported that Madame Ling's medical record was missing. Madame Ling, Gong Shangjue's mother, had also come from Suzhou, as had Madame Lan. Both had been pregnant around the same time. Upon verification, it was discovered that the medical record Gong Shangjue presented actually belonged to his biological mother. This time, he had utterly lost. Jin Fan, on Gong Ziyu's order, was to escort Yun Weishan out of the residence and return her freedom. Yun Weishan felt reluctant but packed her things and left with him. Just as she was about to step out of the residence, Gong Ziyu ran up and stopped her. He held her tightly and refused to let go, declaring that he would never let her leave again, as he now knew she and Ming Wuji had orchestrated everything to utterly defeat Gong Shangjue. Back at the Yu lineage, Ming Wuji explained the entire sequence of events, emphasizing Yun Weishan's critical role. Gong Ziyu sincerely apologized to Yun Weishan, then asked Ming Wuji about what happened in the past. Years ago, Gong Huanyu spared Madame Lan during a mission and told her to forget what happened. He fell in love with her at first sight, but Madame Lan had already developed feelings for a poor scholar. Later, the Lan family sought to ally with the Gong family and sent her as a bride. Gong Huanyu thought it was fate, but Madame Lan, haunted by her past, was perpetually sad. Even after giving birth to Gong Ziyu, she remained melancholy and eventually died from emotional distress. Gong Shangjue was frustrated by his defeat and even drove Gong Yuanzhong away. Shang Wanqian wanted to comfort him, but Gong Yuanzhong told her not to bother, especially since the medical record she brought had caused all this. Yun Weishan had deceived her, which made Shang Wanqian upset. If you love the story, subscribe for the next episode.